biography of Gadadhar Pandit, whom I adore. He is my favorite for many reasons. Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Sri Gadadhar was the constant companion of Mahaprabhu from the time of their childhood. His father's name was Sri Madhav Misra, and his mother's name was Sri Ratnavati Devi. They lived very near the house of Sri Jagannath Misra in Mayapur. Ratnavati Devi thought of Saji Devi as her own sister and always used to visit her. During their childhood, Sri Gaurahari and Gadadhar would play together, sometimes at Mahaprabhu's house and sometimes at Gadadhar's house. They both studied together at the same school. Gadadhar was a few years younger than Nimai. Nimai couldn't remain without Gadadhar even for a moment, and Gadadhar likewise couldn't stand to be separated from Nimai. In the Gaur Ganadesha Dipika, it is described that the person who in Vraj was the daughter of Sri Vrishabhanu Raj, namely Srimati Radharani, is now celebrated as Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Srila Swarup Damodar has written in his diary, Avani Sura Bhava, Sri Bandita Kyo Jatindra, Sa Kalu Bhavati Radhash, Srila Gauravatur Taro. Sri Vasudev Gosha Thakur has also written, Agyam Oga Charo Gora Akil Brahma Par, Veda Upa Najane Prasandi Mata Bora Nityanandan Nityananda Chaitanya Govinda Pandit Gadadhar Radha Chaitanya Yugala Rupa Kebol Rasa Kup Avatar Sajiva Sade Antare Navegana Bahire Goratanu Yugal Rupa Par Kase Kahi Vasudeva Gosai Yugala Bhajan Base Jan Name Janame Rahu Asa. Lord Gaur Sundar, who is beyond the purview of the scriptures, beyond the entire Brahman, and above even the Vedas, can never be known by the atheist whose intelligence is dull. Lord Nityananda is his eternal self. Lord Chaitanya is Lord Govinda himself. And Pandita Gadadhar is none other than Sri Radha. The divine couple who are present in Sri Chaitanya are a well of rasa. Advaitacharya Sadashiva has prayed for his descent. Within, he is blackish, but of a golden hue without, the manifestation of the divine couple. Thus, Vasudeva Ghosh sings of the beauty of this divine couple, Sri Gaura Gadadhar, in whose worship he has been completely subjected. He prays that he will desire to serve them birth after birth. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, we likewise find quotations. The emotions and expressions of Pandita Gadadhar are not possible to describe. Another name of Lord Gauranga is the Lord of the life of Gadadhar. Who can understand what mercy has been bestowed upon him? Their glories are sung by everyone as Gadai Gauranga. During the time when Sri Ishwara Puri was present for a few months in Navadvipa at the house of Sri Gopinath Acharya, he taught Gadadhar from the book he had composed, Sri Krishna Lilamrita. Gadadhar was, from his very childhood, very serene, patient, calm, quiet, fond of solitude, and very renounced. Nimai Pandit, during the time of his precocious youth, would ask his fellow students meaningless, fallacious questions in logic. Gadadhar, however, was not especially fond of this pastime, and therefore he sometimes used to remain at some distance from Nimai. But Nimai would not allow him to get away. He would tell him, Gadadhar, Gada, see it's Gada, like the club, Dar, in a very short time, I'll become such a Vaishnava that Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva themselves will come to my door. Sri Gadadhar Pandit was very affectionate towards Mukundadat, Whenever any Vaishnava came to Navadvipa, Mukunda would inform Gadadhar, and they would both go to have darshan. One time, Pundarik Vidyanidhi came from Chattakram to Navadvipa, and Mukunda invited Gadadhar to come along and meet him. Gadadhar was very excited to meet such a Vaishnava, and thus the two of them happily set out together to take advantage of sadhu sangha with the famous Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was the spiritual master of Gadadhar Pandit. However, when Gadadhar saw that Pundarik Vidyanidhi dressed and acted like a wealthy materialist, he lost whatever reverence he had previously felt even before speaking with him. Gadadhar thought to himself, how can a Vaishnava look and act as if he was so addicted to sense enjoyment? However, Mukunda knew the real character of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and he could also sense the doubts in the mind of Gadadhar Pandit. Thus he recited some shlokas from Srimad Bhagawatam in a very sweet voice. When Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard this beautiful recitation of these slokas, in a fit of ecstasy he began to cry while calling Krishna, Krishna, and finally fainted dead away on the floor. This is in Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila 7, verses 78 through 79. Gadadhar now felt very remorseful in his mind, and he thought to himself, because I have ignorantly considered this highly advanced soul to be an ordinary materialist, what an offense I have committed. In order that I might be saved from the reaction of this offense, I think the only solution is to accept initiation from him. Gadadhar Pandit submitted his proposal to Mukunda, who presented it to Pundarik Vidyanidhi with a full account of the Pandita's high qualifications. Hearing this proposal, Pundarik became very happy. Providence has bestowed upon me a great jewel. Certainly I will accept him. You shouldn't have any doubt about that. It is the result of many lifetimes of good fortune that one gets a disciple like this. Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila 7, verses 117 through 118. On an auspicious day, Sri Gadadhar Pandit received the divine mantra from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. One would also, Pundarik Vidyanidhi is actually King Vrishabhanu, Radharani's father in Krishna's pastimes. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, upon going to Gayadam, first began to manifest Krishna Prema. There he enacted the pastime of accepting the shelter of Sri Ishwara Puri. After returning to his house, he began to exhibit a new life. Day and night he floated in the ocean of love of Krishna. Gadadhar, upon seeing the Lord showering of tears in love for Krishna, also began to cry in ecstatic love. From this time, Gadadhar Pandit was always at Mahaprabhu's side. One day, Sri Gadadhar brought some pan to Sri Gauranga, who, in an exuberance of emotion, asked him, Gadadhar, where is that beautiful blackish boy who is dressed in yellow garments? After asking this, he began to shed tears. Gadadhar couldn't immediately think of what to say. He finally respectfully suggested, he is in your heart. Hearing this, Mahaprabhu began to tear his chest with his nails. But Gadadhar quickly grabbed his hands. Prabhu said to him, Gadadhar, let go of my hands. I cannot remain a moment more not seeing Krishna. Lord Chaitanya is crying, feeling love for Krishna. Gadadhar replied, just try to be a little patient and calm yourself. Krishna will come any minute now. Hearing this, Mahaprabhu became somewhat composed. Sachi Mata heard all this from a distance and then came running there. Being very pleased with Gadadhar, she declared, though he is just a boy, he is very intelligent. I am frightened to go before my son when he is in these moods. But Gadadhar's very cleverly pacified him. Satyamata told Gadadhar, you must please remain with me, my always. If you stay with him, then I won't have to worry. One day, Sri Gadadhar, having heard that Mahaprabhu will speak Krishna Katha at Suklambara Brahmachari's house, went there and sat down inside. Meanwhile, Mahaprabhu arrived outside on the veranda and began to speak with Krishna to an audience of devotees there. Gadadhar Prabhu listened from within the house. Soon Mahaprabhu became totally absorbed in the ecstasy of Krishna Prema, which quickly spread to the assembly of devotees. For some time they continued to taste the mellows of love of Krishna together and then becalmed themselves. Gadadhar, however, couldn't restrain his ecstasy. With his head bowed down, he continued to cry very loudly. Hearing this pitiful sobbing, Mahaprabhu inquired, who is crying within the room? Suklambar Brahmachari replied, you're Gadadhar. Mahaprabhu explained, Gadadhar, you are so pious and virtuous. Since your very childhood, you were so devoted to Krishna. My life has been wasted. Due to my previous evil activities, I cannot get the association of the Lord of my life. Sri Krishna saying this, Prabhu embraced Gadadhar in great love. When Mahaprabhu began his pastimes in Navadvipa, Gadadhar was his chief companion. Radha Krishna Vraj are now sporting on the banks of the Ganga as Gadhai, Gauranga, and the cowherd boyfriends of Raj are assisting in his pastimes of kirtan. One day, after roaming throughout the town of Navadvipa, Mahaprabhu came to a forest and seated himself there. Then he began to remember the pastimes of Raj. Mukunda began to sing the Purvavad courtship songs in a sweet voice while Gadadhar collected some flowers from the forest and after stringing a garland placed it on Prabhu's neck. Previously, in the way that Sri Radha used to decorate Sri Krishna, Gadadhar began to dress Prabhu in that exact manner. Some were singing beautiful songs where others began to dance in a very graceful style. Then Sri Gaur Sundar, taking Gadadhar by his side, seated him on a dais at the base of one of the trees. While Sri Advaitacharya began to offer artik, Nityananda seated himself on Prabhu's right side and Srivasacharya Pandit began to decorate everyone with flower garlands. Nadahari was fanning the divine couple with a whisk made from the tail of forest cows. Suklambar decorated them all with sandalwood paste while Murari Gupta recited the Prem Dani. Madhava, Vasudev, Purushottam, Vijay, and Mukunda began to sing songs in the various ragas. Gaur Artik is taking place. Then Prabhu closed his pastimes in Nadia as per his mother's request. He took up his residence in Nilachala. Gadadhar also went there to live at this time, and he engaged himself in the service of Sri Tota Gopinath. Mahaprabhu would very often visit his dear friend Gadadhar and lose himself in discussions on the topics of Sri Krishna. The temple of Sri Tota Gopinath is located near the ocean of Yameshwar. When Lord Chaitanya traveled to Sri Vrindavan Dham, Gadadhar, not being able to bear the separation from him, wanted to go also, but Mahaprabhu reminded him of his vow of Kshetra Sannyas, by which he was able to remain constantly in the Sri Kshetra in the service of Sri Tota Gopinath, and sent him back. Sri Gadadhar Pandit would regularly recite Srimad Bhagawatam. This particular pastime, actually, it's not speaking enough of it because he really was upset about being sent back. He was saying, what good is this Kshetra Sannyas if I can't be with my Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Sri Gadadhar Pandit would regularly recite Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Gaurasundar, along with his associates, would listen. Then one might ask a question, if Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna combined, where is the necessity of the appearance of Gadadhar Pandit? The answer to this is that it has been explained that Mahaprabhu is Krishna in search of the loving sentiment of Radha for Krishna. Sri Gadadhar Pandit represents that Bhav personified, and thus he has appeared to be at the side of Mahaprabhu to assist him in his search. In this explanation, Gadadhar gives his unalloyed love of Lord Sri Gauranga willingly. It has also been explained that Krishna has stolen the bhav of Radha and appears as Mahaprabhu. Radha Krishna combined. Gadadhar represents that which is left of Radha after Krishna steals her bhav. The mood is at seeing that neither Sri Radha nor Sri Krishna appear on the Purnima Titi full moon, but when the divine couple combine as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this appearance in the world occurs on the Purnima in Navadvipa. Sri Gadadhar Pandit appears on the new moon, small Amavasya, and leaves the world on the same day, Amavasya. New moon means no moon, dark moon or Amavasya Titi. He also appeared in a land that is desert-like, dry and vacant in contrast to the lush Ganga basin of Navadvipa. All of this indicates the condition of the heart or nature of Sri Gadadhar. He is thus feeling empty and lets everyone know about it too. It is said that what remains in him is the bhav of Rukmini, who is Radha's expansion in Dwarka. Thus, his surface mood in Gaura Leela is like that of the Dakshini right-wing gopi rather than the Vama left-wing gopi. Vama type is a little aggressive in nature and fights with the lover. However, to prove Gadadhar's dedication as a right-wing, he is submissive to the extreme Dakshina type, tolerates everything, whatever comes. Only with a defensive attitude he stands. This Dakshina path that is as Sri Mati Rukmini Devi. So when the spirit of Radharani of that opposing nature is drawn out by Mahaprabhu, then what remains is compared like that of Rukmini as a passive seer without any power to assert, only an onlooker and bearing everything, a very pitiable condition. The idea is to awaken kindness and sympathy from everyone. What is he and what is she and what is her position now? And how her lover has taken up everything from her, looted everything from her, leaving her as a beggar wandering in the street. So much looted. Radharani, when looted to such a degree by Krishna, has become Gadadhar, a pitiable figure. The wealth, of course, cannot go on forever. She is the proprietor, owner, cannot be far away. After a long time, she must come. That must come to her again one day. And those that are helping her in her day of distress, they will get how much remuneration at that time when she will get back all property. Just as in Vraj, Srimati Radharani is the queen and proprietor of everything, so Gadadhar is the master of everything, but still here he has given everything to his master, and thus, in one sense, he is empty. This mood of his being empty is unique. He is playing in such a way as his part or play as Gadadhar Pandit. His is the highest position of self-sacrifice. Nimai Pandit showed his character as an aggressor, impertinent, and an extraordinary genius. Gadadhar Pandit was just the opposite. He had some natural inclination that was in his submission and total dedication towards Nimai. And Nimai Pandit Jai, Panchatattva Ki Jai. And Nimai Pandit also had some special attraction for Gadadhar Pandit, but Gadadhar Pandit could not face Nimai Pandit directly. Some sort of shyness he felt about Nimai Pandit. So this is what we know about Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit had very intimate relationship with Mahaprabhu, in which the Acharyas, Swarup Damodar, Rupa, Sanatan, Kaviraj Goswami, Raghunath Das, all of them could see Radharani and Rukmini both in his personality. And according to that, we can try to understand him. It is true that Gauranga Mahaprabhu is Vrajendanandanandana, Krishna. Without him, as is the case with Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, all of his expansions are present. Thus, as Gaura Narayan, he consorts with Rukmini in his appearance as Lakshmi Priya Devi. Furthermore, just as for Vrajendanandana, Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, similarly, Sachinandana, Gaur Krishna, never leaves Navadvipa Dham. Thus, the Leela of Mahaprabhu in Puri, which is representative of Dwarka, is imbued with Aishwarya opulence, not found in Nadia, Bengal. Indeed, this Aishwarya is said to have weighed heavily on Gadadhar Pandit and influenced his loving sentiment above. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj says of Gadadhar Pandit in Puridam that because he was influenced by Aishwarya Gyan of Gauranga, he was, as Srila Prabhupada comments further, always submissive, Dakshina Naiki. He could not be angered by Mahaprabhu, even when Mahaprabhu tried to anger him, and see the mood of Radha, Vama Naika, in him. Krishna Das Kaviraj pointed out that even as Krishna in the form of Mahaprabhu tried to anger Gadadhar, Radha, he could not draw out this sentiment from him because he maintained a temperament like that of Rukmini, Dakshina Naiki, due to the fact that Mahaprabhu had already stolen the Vamanaiki aspect of Radha from him. Indeed, Swarup Damodar Goswami asked Gadadhar why he did not approach Mahaprabhu and instead tolerated Mahaprabhu's criticisms of him. To this, Gadadhar replied, Prabhu Swatantra Sarvagya Siromani Tarasane Hatakari Bala Nahi Mani. The master is independent. He is the topmost omniscient person. If I speak on an equal level with him, this will not be good for me. The above opinion is one that is shared by the late Om Vishnupad Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami in his book Heart of Krishna, that contains a series of articles originally written in Bengali during the manifest presence of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Puri Goswami Maharaj states, that which is left over after the bhav and luster of Radha have been plundered by Krishna as Gadadhar Pandit. It is stated that no one loves Lord Gauranga more than Sri Gadadhar. Yet even though he takes much abuse and neglect for Gauranga, still he cannot leave him. His necessity and dependency is very great. The understanding is that without Mahaprabhu, he is transcendentally incomplete. Thus, he wants to get his bhav back from Krishna to again become complete, the complete united whole of Radha and Krishna. To unite Gaura and Gadadhar, Radha Krishna, is the highest ideal of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. The worship of Gaur Gadadhar is in Mathurya Ras, so it is not for the Kanista Adhikari on the beginning stages of devotional service, where one strives to follow the principles and avoid offenses. Rather, this is for advanced devotees who are already steady, nishta, in Krishna consciousness and getting a genuine taste, ruchi. Then in transcendental view, they are worshipped like Radha and Krishna. Thus, Gadadhar Pandit is like Sri Radha standing next to Gaura Krishna, who has stolen her bhav, and she wants it back. When they are united, then the divine couple, Radha Krishna, Gaura, Gadadhar, are present. Sometimes the devotees will see them as Radha Krishna, and sometimes as Gaura Gadadhar, according to that pure devotee's mood. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written an Arctic song for Gaur Gadadhar describing Radha Krishna. This is the internal reality. It is all very esoteric and not to be imitated. Who can understand such wonderful and intimate pastimes? Thus we use ordinary terms to try to explain them, but these mellows are not ordinary. When Vakreshwar Pandit came to live in Puri, he would accompany Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Advaitacharya, and other devotees to Tota Gopinath to hear Gadadhar Pandit give discourses on Bhagavatam. One should hear the book Bhagavatam from the devotee Bhagavatam. One who thinks I understand the Bhagavatam does not really know the Bhagavatam's central meaning. On the other hand, an ignorant person who takes shelter of the Bhagavatam will directly perceive its meaning. The Bhagavatam is pure love. It is the incarnation of Krishna himself. He recounts Krishna's most intimate activities. It recounts Krishna's most intimate activities. After recounting the Vedas and the Puranas, Vedavyas felt unsatisfied, but as soon as the Bhagavatam manifested on his tongue, his mind was immediately satisfied. Remember Gaur Gadadhar during the time of their pastimes. Meditate on Gaur Gadadhar, the divine couple, the par excellence of beauty. Hear beautiful discussions on the topics of Gaur Gadadhar and worship them in the forest groves of Godruma. Bathed in the light of the moon, Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu, Age Bosa Pure Bhagavat, Shudhe Dale Rasi Rasi. After enacting his pastimes on this planet for 48 years, it is seen by witnesses that Sri Gaur Sundar entered into the body of Sri Tota Gopinath, who was the deity in Puri on the Nilachala beach served by Sri Gadadhar Pandit. In the diary of one Arisan devotee, Mahaprabhu is said to have first gone missing inside Gundicha Mandir. Then the devotees began to comb the four directions in search of their beloved Lord. Finally, outside of Tota Gopinath Mandir in Yameshwar, the outer garment of Mahaprabhu was found on the ground. There is a story in connection with Sri Gadadhar Pandit that when he was very old and trying to render service to Tota Gopinath, that he couldn't anymore reach to put the garland on the neck of the deity. To reciprocate with his loving service, the deity knelt down to accept the flower garland of his beloved Gadadhar, who is none other than his beloved Srimati Radharani incarnate, as previously mentioned. To this day, the deity of Tota Gopinath in the temple remains in a kneeling position to accept the eternal service of his beloved Gadadhar. A slight crack, which is still to be found near the right knee of Sri Gopinathji, is the spot where Mahaprabhu is said to have entered the deity. His appearance is on the Amavasya new moon in the month of Vaishakha. Jai Sri Gadadhar Pandit Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Glories to the pastimes of our beautiful deities. Sri Gadadhar Pandit. Hare Krishna. Any comments? Yes.
It's said that Gadadhar's copy of Srimad Bhagavatam became illegible from his tears as he would recite the Bhagavatam. Mahaprabhu accepted him as his Bhagavatam teacher.
Krishna. So sweet.
Oh, and there's a really wonderful picture, a contemporary picture, apparently commissioned by Pratap Rudra. It shows Gadadhar Pandit reciting the Bhagavatam to Mahaprabhu, and Swarup Damodar is there, and Haridas Thakur, and Pratap Rudra is doing Dandavats.
There's one picture here in this of Gadadhar, and one of Kundari Vidyanidhi. He was said to be wearing the finest garments with rings on all of his fingers and smoking a hookah. And having all fancy things around and carried in on a palanquin. And that's when Gadadhar was questioning his character. So sometimes we may, this is the picture that they have of Gadadhar, small, but this was from Iskcon Desire Tree. They gave the biography in which I read from. Hare Krishna, glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Did you have something to say?
I just have a question. What are the Hawaiian gods? And is the Hawaiian gods the same as these gods, or they're different?
Well, I have my own speculations on the subjects, and I would prefer to not speak them here. Not from this position. I have because there are some schools of thought that they came from Puri originally. The first 2,000-year-old immigration that landed in South Point, Ka'u. But that's not extremely verified. They became the priests for the later immigrants that were larger people. They were the kahunas. So I can't say categorically, but there are many people that corroborate it, historians that corroborate because of the petroglyphs that are found, on the wall carvings. They're found in many places all over the Earth planet. So there's something going on there that's ancient. The first immigrants were like 2,000 years back here to Hawaii. There are many immigrations to Hawaii, not just one.
Kaimi was able to connect a bunch of those dots with the deities, Hawaiian deities, who's who, who's everybody else. Ganapati, he's involved. So yeah, somehow he was able to, due to their personalities, he was able to connect who was who.
If you look at Balaram's brow,
Yeah, so
he very much exactly like some of the Hawaiians, you know. So there's those of us who have, feel strong connections. My family is Kahuna. My original Hawaiian roots is Kahuna. So, Hare Krishna.
What is their family deity?
What my family did, I don't know. It was lost in time. I can't say categorically, but I always say I'm following the original Hawaiian religion. That's what I always say to everyone. I'm loyal. Because this is essential. This is ancient. This Vedic Dharma is an ancient, thousands and thousands. It's eternal. It's not, it's eternal religion. Sanatana Dharma. So it's not just in this time, in this place. It's being handed down from Krishna in an unbroken